So if we were standing in your physical shoes and we were writing a letter to all of these ex-beloveds, our words would go something like this: dear heart, if I had it to do over again, I would do exactly the same thing, because that's where I was then, and I couldn't do otherwise, and I am frankly sick and tired of beating up on myself for not knowing everything then that I know now. We all did the best that we knew how to do, and then we would say, and thank you for the expansion, thank you for the expansion, thank you for the expansion, thank you for the contrast. I thank myself for the contrast too. We provided contrast that caused us both to expand, and I am appreciating my expansion, and now I'm striving in every conscious moment of every day to be in alignment with who I really am, because I want to see the beauty that I know was present in you then that I could not see because of where I was. But don't proclaim yourself as wrong then, because nothing will separate you more from who you are in terms of your relationship with source energy than to pick some point in time in life and condemn yourself for your behavior.
That makes brilliant sense. I guess I struggle with reactions that feel like I shouldn't be sharing something. I'm not identifying any of these people by name, but they know who they are, so they feel like our private lives have now been exposed, and that's tough. I understand completely where they're coming from. It's not my intention to exploit. It's my intention to set up context for the reader of this is what went through. This was the perspective I had at the time. It wasn't the greatest. So I have a hard time with someone being pained by something I feel is my destiny, for lack of a better word, is to share my experience in that way.
Well, you can't take upon yourself anyone's responses to anything, but you are pouring a little bit of salt in quite a few wounds.
Yes.
And you must be prepared for the not this receptive mode, but this receptive mode response to what you're doing. No one wants to go back and remember hard times. And the interesting thing about it is, we're just going to say it to you. You can have all of these step one moments that you want to have with this. In other words, because there are a whole lot of people that will relate with you in a whole lot of ways. But the only way to recover from heartbreak is to forget about it. Because when you tune back into it, when you focus back up on it, and you reactivate within yourself the thoughts that you were having while the heartbreak was happening, you just practice a vibration that keeps you separated from who you are. Mm-hmm. So we want to ask you, what do you think is at the basis of this destiny that you are feeling? We know that you're feeling it in a very strong way. And we know that you think that it is a process for healing, for recovery. Is that your motivation in doing it?
Recovery is the exact word. I'm 4.5 years recovered from what's called sex and love addiction. And I didn't know it at the time. I didn't know it was a thing. I didn't know how it was affecting other people.
Everybody's recovering from sex and love addiction. And we're not making light of your experience, but as with all addictions and all recovery, you don't recover by remembering it, and you don't recover by writing it down, and you don't recover by shining a spotlight on it, and you don't recover by a whole lot of other people reading it, because it activates a vibration. So we just want to ask you, what do you think the vibration of your inner being is about this? Does your inner being want you to relitigate your past, or does your inner being accept your recovery and focus there?
My inner being's very happy with my recovery. The point of the book was to shed light for other people who have been in my experience and also didn't know what they were going through, and also to explain to some women this is behavior. That was the connections a lot of women were making. It was like, oh my God, that guy that I dated has these issues, and it gave them closure. The point of the book is to help other men identify themselves in me and for them to get help and have the recovery that I have now.
Well, the reason that we keep coming at this from a little bit different direction and asking you another question is because as you are visiting with us, you continue to use the word, the challenge I have now, the challenge I have now. And so we want to refer you back to the conversation we had yesterday about staying in your lane, about finding your place, knowing that you've got it, feeling not vulnerable but sure-footed, not afraid but confident, not embarrassed but proud of yourself, not regretful but eager about what's coming, and then to practice the words that help you stay in that lane. A lot of people stand in an attitude of what they believe is service, where they want to explain the pain that they've overcome. But the thing that is obvious to us here is that you haven't overcome it when you're still feeling it so strongly. You reactivate it, and so you're calling it a recovery. We're calling it a continuation of the momentum. Now, the behavior may be very different, and that's what you're talking about, but the vibrational content is what we are the teachers about. The first words that you spoke with us today were about receiving the vibration, not the words. And so it's the vibrational basis of things that we are most interested in all of you understanding, and the vibrational basis is represented to you by the way you feel. So when you feel regretful, when you feel sorry, when you feel challenged, or when you feel some of the emotions that you've been describing here, that's just an indication that the recovery or the replenishment or the reconnection is not happening in this moment. Doesn't mean that it doesn't feel a lot better than it felt, but it means that that connection has not been completely restored. And so what we're encouraging you to do is to move as far forward as fast as you can into what feels like the relief of that better feeling, and then speak from there. In other words, what relief or what recovery are you demonstrating or noticing or wanting to convey? You see, this is so interesting. All of the programs that are focused on recovery seem to want to push against what was wrong in order to hold themselves. In other words, if I can make it big, bad, and awful enough in my recognition of what I have done, then maybe I will be able to guard myself and keep myself from ever going there again. That sort of is the way a lot of people are looking at a lot of those recovery programs. But what we know as a vibrational basis of life experience is that this is a universe that's based upon attraction. It's inclusion based. You cannot push against anything without continuing the vibration of it. And so the challenge that you keep feeling is the vibrational challenge between the way your inner being is looking at you and knowing you and feeling about you, and the way you through your writing are looking at you and remembering you and feeling about you.
How do I make that connection? Because what I'm hearing, and it may be wrong, is that the purpose of my life is keeping me stuck.
Well, we would agree with that assessment. And we think it's a misunderstanding of the purpose of your life. We don't think the purpose of your life is to relitigate what went on before and to continue to whip yourself in order to prevent yourself from ever going there again. We think that that time of your life filled your vortex full of all kinds of intentions relative to your autonomy and your connection with Source and your relationship with others. Don't you?
I don't know what else to write about other than personal experience. That's what the flow is. That's what I feel best. That's when I feel the direct connection. I could make up fiction, but it's not the same for me.
Well, the reason for that is because that's where the momentum is, and you are in a receptive mode. And do not misunderstand us. We are not in any way trying to get you to stop doing anything that you are doing, because it certainly is part of your process. And there are so many people who are relating to where you once were because that's where they now are. But the purpose of your life is not to stay there with them.
Okay, that distinction I get.
The purpose of your life is to have known that and to recognize what you put into your vortex. And if we were standing in your physical shoes, as quickly as we could, we had moved toward that. But you see, what holds anyone in that addictive place of trying to fill some void? Every addiction, no matter what it is, whether it's sex or drugs or alcohol or shopping, it doesn't matter. There is this feeling that I am empty of something that I want and need, and so I fill that void with this behavior. And at least this activity keeps me distracted from the void that I'm really feeling, but it never fills the void.
Yep.
It never fills the void. And the purpose of your life is to recognize that the void is unnecessary and that it is self-imposed, but that it isn't wrong that you were there feeling it, because that's the way life played out for you for a while. But now you've put so much into your vortex. Now there is another calling that you will begin to hear. Just don't write so long and so hard, and you won't stay stuck. It is our promise to you. You can't have had those experiences and put what you've put into your vortex and know what you're knowing about alignment and reach for that alignment. In other words, reaching for the receptive mode will eventually bring you into vibrational alignment with who you really are. And then you will start to notice the words morphing within you as they are coming. You said volume 1. Volume 1. Well, that sort of implied...
That was a joke. That was a joke.
We know that. We like it. We think there should be a volume 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Volume 1 from the receptive mode of regret. Volume 2 from the receptive mode of resentment. Volume 3 from the receptive mode of hope. Volume 4 from the receptive mode of appreciation and love and true connection. Let this be a series of books where you demonstrate your true recovery, where what you're saying to them then is, I'm sorry because I was terrible. And then later you'll say, I hate you because you were terrible. And then later you'll say, I'm hopeful that neither one of us will see each other as terrible. And eventually, I love you with all that I am for the opportunity that you gave me to discover who I am.
I love you so much.
And hurry on to volume 4 as quickly as you can. Enough?
What?
Enough?
I have personal questions that I'll figure out a way to get to.
All is well with you.
Thank you.
Yeah.